The gold Parker pen felt heavier than usual in my hand that Tuesday morning. My wife Sarah had given it to me 30 years ago, the day I signed the lease on our first construction office. A tiny 800 square foot space in downtown Denver, with peeling paint and a broken heater. She'd wrapped the pen in newspaper because we couldn't afford gift wrap back then, and written on it, "For signing all the big deals to come." I ran my thumb over the worn clip, feeling the small dent where I'd dropped it, celebrating our first $1 million contract. Sarah had been gone for 5 years now, but this pen still sat on my desk every single day. It was supposed to be for big deals, important moments. So why was my hand shaking as I held it over the transfer papers my son had just placed in front of me? Brandon stood across my desk, arms crossed, that impatient look he'd been wearing a lot lately. 36 years old, VP of Operations at Thompson Construction, my only son. The boy I'd taught to read blueprints when he was 12. The young man who'd worked every summer on our job sites, coming home covered in drywall, dust, and cement. The man I'd been grooming to take over this company for the past decade. "Dad, it's just a formality," he said, tapping his watch. "The lawyers need this signed before the quarterly meeting. You said you wanted to retire, right? Spend time traveling like you and Mom always planned?" I looked down at the papers. Asset transfer agreement. My name at the bottom. 75 pages of legal text. I'd need reading glasses to get through properly. Brandon had summarized it for me. Standard succession plan. He'd take over as majority shareholder and CEO. I'd get a monthly pension, keep my title as chairman emeritus. Still have an office here, he'd said. Just no day-to-day responsibilities. "Son," I said I was thinking about retiring. "Not that I'd decided. You're 62, Dad. You've been doing this for 35 years. Don't you think it's time?" Something in his voice. A edge I couldn't quite place. Not concern, not excitement. Something else. "Let me read through these properly. Give me a few days." Brandon's jaw tightened. Just for a second. Then that practice smile appeared. "Sure, Dad. Of course. Take your time. But the lawyers really do need this by Friday for the board meeting. It's on the agenda and everything." He left my office, and I sat there staring at those papers for a long time. Thompson Construction employed 217 people. We had projects running in 5 states. Last year, we'd brought in $43 million in revenue. I'd built this from nothing. From that tiny office with the broken heater to a 6-story building in the business district. Sarah and I had sacrificed everything. Missed vacations, worked 18-hour days, took out second mortgages, and now Brandon wanted me to sign it all over on a Tuesday morning with 3 days' notice? I picked up my phone and called Frank Martinez. Frank had been my construction foreman for 28 years, knew every project, every client, every detail of how we operated. He'd been with me since the beginning, when it was just the 2 of us and a pickup truck. "Frank, can you come up to my office?" "Be right there, boss." Frank knocked and entered 2 minutes later. 61 years old, with hands like tree trunks and a face weathered from 3 decades under the Colorado sun. He'd turned down retirement 3 times because, in his words, "What the hell else am I going to do?" "What's up, Gerald?" I pushed the papers across the desk. "Brandon wants me to sign these. Transfer everything to him. Retire. He says it's standard succession planning." Frank picked up the documents, his reading glasses hanging from a chain around his neck. He was silent for a long time, flipping through pages. Then he set them down and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Concern. Real concern. "Gerald, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Have you looked at the books lately?" "Like, really looked at them?" Brandon handles most of that now. He and David. David Chen was our CFO, Harvard MBA. Brandon had hired him 2 years ago. "When's the last time you reviewed a financial statement?" I thought about it. Maybe 6 months? Brandon said he'd streamline things, keep me out of the weeds so I could focus on client relationships. Frank nodded slowly. "Boss, I'm probably overstepping, but some things have been bothering me. Materials costs on the Jefferson project. Labor hours that don't match what my guys actually worked. Subcontractor invoices that seem high. You think there's fraud? I think you should look at the books yourself before you sign anything." I felt that cold feeling you get when something you've been trying to ignore suddenly demands your attention. Like when you hear a strange noise in your car, and you just know, something's wrong, but you haven't wanted to admit it. Thanks, Frank. I'll look into it. After he left, I sat in my office as the afternoon sun slanted through the windows. I'd designed this room myself. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Denver, shelves full of industry awards and photos from completed projects. There was a picture of Brandon and me at a ribbon-cutting ceremony 3 years ago, both of us wearing hard hats and smiling. He had his arm around my shoulders, my son, my only child after Amy moved to Seattle for her tech job. Brandon was supposed to be my legacy. I pulled up our financial software on my computer, logged in with my credentials that I hadn't used in months, started reviewing reports. Revenue looked strong, but Frank was right. The expenses seemed off. I'd been in this business for 35 years. I knew what materials cost, what labor should run, what profit margins should look like. The Jefferson project was a $12 million commercial building. According to our records, we'd spent $9 million so far, with the project only 60% complete. That was impossible. Either we'd massively underbid the job, which we never did, or someone was cooking the books. I called Amy that evening. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright with that West Coast sunshine enthusiasm. "Dad, how are you? How's Denver? Cold. Snowing again. How's Seattle? Rainy. Shocking, I know. What's up? You never call on a Tuesday. Brandon wants me to retire. Sign over the company to him." Silence on the other end. Then, "What do you think about that?" "I don't know. That's why I'm calling you." "Dad, I'm going to tell you something, and please don't be mad at Brandon or me for not saying this sooner." That cold feeling again. "What?" "Last Christmas, when I was home, Brandon and I had a few drinks. He got pretty honest. Talked about how he was tired of waiting for you to step down. Said the company was basically his anyway since he ran everything, and you were just holding on because you didn't know what else to do with your life." "He said that?" "Dad, I think he's been planning this for a while, and some of the things he said about finances worried me. He talked about restructuring, cutting costs, maximizing profits before going public, but he said it in a way that sounded like he was planning to strip the company for parts, not build it up." We talked for another hour. After I hung up, I sat in my home office in the dark. Sarah's photo on my desk, that same smile she'd had when she wrapped that pen in newspaper. What would she tell me to do? I knew what she'd say. The same thing she always said when something didn't feel right on a job. "Trust your gut, Gerald. Your gut has never lied to you." My gut was screaming that something was very, very wrong. Wednesday morning, I called our IT guy, Marcus. 25 years old, brilliant with computers, quiet kid, who fixed everyone's tech problems. "Marcus, I need a favor. And this stays between us." "Sure, Mr. Thompson. What do you need?" "I need you to pull all of Brandon's emails from the past 6 months, internal and external, and David Chen's too. Can you do that legally?" "You're the owner of the company, sir. Technically, all emails on company servers are company property. I can pull them, but are you sure you want me to?" "I'm sure. Give me till end of day." I spent Wednesday doing something I hadn't done in months. I walked our job sites, talked to Foreman, checked inventory, looked at actual materials being delivered versus what our system said we'd ordered. Every site I visited, the numbers didn't match. We were paying for premium materials but receiving standard grade, paying for union labor hours that weren't being worked. It was systematic, organized, not a series of mistakes. This was intentional fraud. Marcus delivered a thumb drive to my house that evening. "Mr. Thompson, I pulled everything you asked for." I also noticed some unusual activity on Mr. Brandon's computer. He's been using encrypted email services, Proton Mail, Signal. Those messages aren't on our servers. What does that mean? It means he's deliberately hiding communications. People only do that when they don't want anyone to see what they're saying. I spent Wednesday night reading emails, hundreds of them. Most were boring operational stuff. But then I found the thread with David Chen from 3 months ago. Brandon. Old man still asking questions about Jefferson? David. Stonewalled him. Told him I'd have detailed reports next quarter. Brandon. Good. Need him distracted until after the transfer. Once I'm majority owner, won't matter what he finds. David. You sure this is legal? Restructuring debt to make the company look less profitable? Brandon. It's creative accounting. Perfectly legal. We're just timing expenses differently to reduce the valuation. He gets his retirement package. I get the company cheap. We restructure everything after the transition. Win-win. David. If you say so, just want to make sure I'm protected if this goes sideways. Brandon. You're protected. Trust me. I read that exchange 5 times. My son was deliberately devaluing the company I'd spent 35 years building, making it look like we were barely profitable so he could buy me out for less than it was worth. Then he'd restructure, flip it, and walk away with millions while I got a pension based on fraudulent numbers. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in my chair, staring at Sarah's photo, remembering Brandon as a little boy, teaching him to ride a bike, his high school graduation, the day he asked to join the company. Dad, I want to build something with you. Together. Together. What a lie that had been. Thursday morning, I called a lawyer. Not our company lawyer. A new one. Specialist in corporate fraud. Her name was Catherine Walsh. Came highly recommended. Expensive as hell. Mr. Thompson, what you're describing is potentially criminal. Securities, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. Have you confronted your son? Not yet. Don't. Not until we have everything documented. If he knows you're investigating, he'll destroy evidence. We need to move carefully. We spent Thursday afternoon going through everything. She brought in a forensic accountant. Young guy named Peter, who looked like he was about 16, but apparently was some kind of genius with financial investigations. Peter worked through our records for 6 hours straight. Finally looked up at me and Catherine, his face grim. Mr. Thompson, your company is worth about $68 million based on actual assets and cash flow. According to the valuation your son provided for the transfer papers, it's worth $22 million. He's trying to steal $46 million from you. The number hit me like a physical blow. $46 million. The value of my entire life's work. The sacrifices Sarah and I made. The dreams we had. How? I asked. How did he do this? Created phantom expenses, dummy vendor accounts that money flows to, shifted profitable contracts to a separate LLC he controls, delayed revenue recognition. He's been systematically stripping value from the company for at least 18 months, and your CFO is definitely in on it. Some of these transactions required his approval. Catherine leaned forward. Mr. Thompson, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow is Friday. Your son expects you to sign those papers. You're not going to. Instead, you're going to tell him you need more time. That will force his hand. He's going to get desperate. People who are desperate make mistakes. We need to give him enough rope to hang himself. What if he just destroys everything? Covers his tracks? He can't. Peter and I have already copied all the financial records. We have backup servers. Even if your son deleted every file tomorrow, we have the evidence. But we need him to make an overt move. Something unmistakably criminal that we can take to authorities. You want me to use myself as bait. I want you to protect your life's work, your legacy, and yes, that means letting this play out a little longer. Can you do that? I thought about Sarah, about the pen, about that tiny office with the broken heater, about every 16-hour day, every risk we took, every sacrifice we made. Yes, I can do that. Friday morning, Brandon came to my office at 9, sharp, eager, confident. He had the papers in a leather portfolio, all flagged with signature tabs. Morning, Dad. Ready to do this? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. When did he become this person? Was it gradual? Or had he always been this way and I just hadn't wanted to see it? Brandon, sit down. We need to talk. His smile faltered. Dad, the lawyers are waiting. Board meeting starts at 10. Sit down. He sat. I could see the calculation in his eyes, trying to figure out what I knew. I'm not signing the papers. Not today. Not until I've had our books independently audited. The color drained from his face. That's crazy. Why would you do that? Because something doesn't add up. Our expenses are too high, margins too low. I've been in this business for 35 years, son. I know what things should cost. Dad, you're just not understanding modern accounting practices. David can explain it. I'm sure he can. In fact, I'd like David to explain it to an independent auditor. And the board. Let's make it all transparent. Brandon stood up. His hands were shaking. Actually shaking. Dad, you're embarrassing yourself. Everyone knows you've been out of touch with the day-to-day operations. This is why it's time for you to step down. You don't understand how things work anymore. Try me. Explain the Jefferson Project. Explain why we're paying for premium materials but receiving standard grade. Explain the dummy vendor accounts. Explain the LLC you created to shift our profitable contracts. His face went white, then red, then white again. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. And so do I. And so does our lawyer and the forensic accountant who's been going through our books. Brandon backed toward the door. You're crazy. You're paranoid. Everyone's going to see this. Everyone's going to know you've lost it. Then prove me wrong. Open the books. Let's review everything together. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize to you and the entire board. But if I'm right, Brandon, if I'm right about any of this, you're going to prison. He left. Slammed the door so hard the picture frames rattled on my walls. I sat there, breathing hard, my heart pounding. Catherine had been listening on my phone, conference call muted. Good. That was perfect. Now we wait. We didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, Marcus called me. Mr. Thompson, Brandon is in David's office. They're both accessing financial systems. Looks like they're deleting files. Can you stop them? Already did. Locked their accounts. Backed up everything they were trying to delete. Sir, they're panicking. I can see their screens remotely. They're using their personal laptops now, probably coordinating. Keep documenting everything. That afternoon, I got a call from someone I didn't recognize. A lawyer named Robert Peterson. Apparently Brandon had already hired him. Mr. Thompson, I represent your son, Brandon. He's asked me to inform you that he's filing for a competency hearing. He's concerned about your mental state and your ability to make sound business decisions. There it was. The nuclear option. Declare me mentally incompetent. Take control of the company through legal guardianship. It was exactly what Catherine predicted. Mr. Peterson, you should know that Brandon is currently under investigation for corporate fraud and embezzlement. If he proceeds with this competency hearing, I will be forced to present evidence of his crimes publicly in court. Is that really the path he wants to take? Silence on the other end. Then, I'll speak with my client. Catherine filed our motion Monday morning. Detailed complaint to the district attorney. 47 pages documenting everything. Bank records, emails, phantom expenses, dummy accounts. 18 months of systematic theft. We estimated Brandon had stolen nearly $6 million directly and attempted to steal another $46 million through the fraudulent transfer. The DA's office called me Tuesday. Mr. Thompson, this is serious. We're opening a criminal investigation. We'll need you to come in for an interview. I spent Wednesday morning at the DA's office, went through everything, showed them the evidence. Peter, the forensic accountant, walked them through the financial schemes. They were quiet when we finished. Mr. Thompson, your son is looking at 10 to 20 years if convicted on all charges. Wire fraud, securities fraud, embezzlement. This is federal stuff. FBI will probably get involved. You understand that? I understand. And you're prepared to testify against your own son? I thought about Sarah, about that pen, about the tiny office with the broken heater, about 35 years of 16-hour days and sacrifices and dreams. He's not my son anymore. My son would never steal from me. This person, whoever he is a criminal who happens to share my DNA. So yes, I'll testify. Thursday morning, 2 FBI agents came to our office. Everyone watched as they walked through the lobby, badges visible. They went straight to Brandon's office. I watched from my window as they escorted him out in handcuffs. David Chen, too. Both of them looking down, trying to avoid the stares of 217 employees who had no idea what had just happened. Frank Martinez appeared in my doorway. Boss, what's going on? Justice, Frank. Justice is going on. The next few weeks were chaos. Media coverage, investigations, depositions. The board held an emergency meeting. I walked them through everything. Some were shocked. Some had suspected. All were angry. They voted unanimously to remove Brandon from all positions and revoke his shares based on the morality clause in our shareholder agreement. Amy flew in from Seattle, held my hand through the worst of it. The preliminary hearings, the arraignment, Brandon's lawyer trying to make me look like a vindictive old man who couldn't accept retirement. But the evidence didn't lie. Bank records don't lie. Emails don't lie. Brandon took a plea deal. 8 years in federal prison. Full restitution. David Chen got 6 years. The dummy vendors, mostly Brandon's friends and Brandon's wife's family, all facing charges. The whole conspiracy unraveled once people started talking to save themselves. I'm sitting in my office now, 6 months later. The same office with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Denver. The same shelves with awards and photos. But the picture of Brandon and me at that ribbon cutting is gone. I couldn't look at it anymore. Amy moved back to Denver. Took over as VP of Operations. Turns out she's brilliant at it. Never wanted to go into construction, she said, because Brandon made it clear there was no room for her. But now she's revolutionizing how we operate. Digital systems, sustainable building practices, employee profit sharing. The company is thriving in ways I never imagined. Frank retired finally. I threw him a party. 200 people showed up. He gave a speech about loyalty and integrity and building things that last. Said those values came from the top. I cried during that speech, not ashamed to admit it. The gold Parker pen is still on my desk. I pick it up sometimes and remember Sarah. Remember when we had nothing but dreams and determination. Remember when I thought building a company was the hardest thing I'd ever do. I didn't know. I didn't know that the hardest thing would be watching your own son try to destroy everything you built. And having to stop him. I'm 63 now. Not retiring yet. Maybe never will. Found out I don't trust easily anymore. Can't delegate the way I used to. Amy tells me I need therapy. She's probably right. But for now, I come to work every day. I check the books personally. I walk the job sites. I talk to my people. Because here's what I learned. What I learned the hard way. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Loyalty isn't something you're born with. It's something you choose every single day. Brandon chose wrong. He chose money over family, greed over integrity, theft over honesty. And I chose to stop him. Even though it destroyed me to do it. Even though I lost my son. Even though there are days I wake up and wonder if I should have just let him have it all. Just signed those papers and walked away. But then I think about Sarah, about that tiny office with the broken heater, about every person who depends on Thompson Construction for their livelihood, about the legacy that means something beyond just money. And I know I made the right choice. Some people say I'm bitter, that I destroyed my own family, that a father should never turn on his son. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should have found another way, but I don't think there was another way. Brandon made his choices. He committed crimes. He stole from the company, from employees, from me. He looked me in the eye and lied, over and over again. And when I discovered it, when I confronted him, he didn't apologize, didn't show remorse. He tried to have me declared incompetent, tried to take everything through legal manipulation and lies. So no, I don't regret what I did. I regret that I had to do it. I regret that my son became someone I didn't recognize. I regret that Sarah didn't live to see this, though maybe that's a blessing. It would have broken her heart. But the choice itself? Stopping a thief? Protecting my life's work? No, I don't regret that. I'm thinking about all this because tomorrow we break ground on a new project. $40 million medical center. Amy's managing it. She's already told me she doesn't need my help. But I'm going to be there anyway, with my hard hat and my gold Parker pen, ready to sign whatever needs signing. Because that's what you do. You keep building. Even when things fall apart, even when people you love betray you, even when the world feels like it's ending. You pick up your tools. You show up to work. And you keep building. That's what Sarah would have wanted. That's what I'm going to do. And somewhere, maybe Brandon will figure out what he lost, what he threw away for money. Maybe 8 years in prison will teach him what I couldn't. That integrity matters. That loyalty matters. That some things are worth more than any dollar amount. Or maybe he won't learn anything. Maybe he'll get out and blame me for everything. Call me a vindictive old man who couldn't let go. I guess I'll find out in 8 years. But for now, I have a company to run. A daughter who's showing me new ways to build. Employees who are counting on me. Projects that need completing. And a gold pen that still feels right in my hand when I sign important documents. The pen Sarah gave me 30 years ago. For all the big deals to come, turns out the biggest deal I ever signed was the one I didn't sign. The transfer papers I refused to put my name on. The deal I walked away from. Because sometimes the most important thing you sign is your refusal, your line in the sand, your moment of saying, no, this is not right, and I will not be part of it. Even if it costs you everything. Even if it costs you your son,